Hello BeeBusinessBee fans, and in this video I wanted to talk to you about the topic of SWOT analysis. Now you might be thinking, what do I mean by SWOT analysis? Well, what I'm talking about is something called your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and your threats. And SWOT analysis can be used as a way of assessing any particular area of business. So you can use it for marketing, finance, operations, HR, anything you want to use it for. In this case, you can even use it for strategy. So I'm going to think about looking at a small business and thinking about what might be their strengths, what might be their weaknesses, what are their opportunities and what are their threats. And I'm going to use it in general. You probably need to apply these sort of concepts, but trying to explain how it works. So let's look at the strengths section. Within the strengths section, you might have things like customer service. So you might be saying, what is the customer service of somebody? So what's the level of customer service? How great is it? How much is the business giving back to its customers? How much they value it? And that would be one of the strengths of the business. Alongside that, you might have a reputation. So the reputation of the business might be why people come back to it. It might be a local business and people respect that business and they keep coming back to it. It could be the location of the business, where it's located. It might be in a really good location, either in the position in the high street, for example, where it is, or it could be where it is, for example, for access for transport routes, for example, and infrastructure. It could be them sort of areas. It depends how you want to look at it. Could be the fact it meets the customer's needs. So it could be something simple as that, meeting the customer's needs. That could be one of the areas and the aspects. Or it could be that personal service and that personal touch. That's one of the unique selling points of many businesses. And again, the USPs can be deemed to be the strengths. So you're thinking about what are the strengths of the business in this case here. On the other side, you might look at the weaknesses. So if they're a small business, you might be saying lack of economies of scale. So being small means that they don't have the same economies of scale. They can't get those purchasing economies of scale, so they can't take advantage of the discounts they might get. That could also link into their pricing, for example, being one of the issues. Again, you might say the location is actually a weakness. Maybe they're not located in the right place. Maybe, yes, they're in the high street, but now people want to be in out of town. Again, that's what you've got to consider when you look at the business. Could be the size of the marketing budget. That could be an issue. So it potentially could be one of the areas. Or it could even be a limited range of products. These are all different areas that you might be looking at and thinking, these are factors that may be weaknesses of the business. Now what you tend to do is try and think about how can they address those weaknesses and how can they overcome them. So there's your area there you start to think about when you come to your improvements. And then of course you get down to your opportunities and your threats. Now the opportunities are the areas that we can take advantage of, or the business can take advantage of. So in this case here, maybe the business needs to develop a website. That would be an opportunity. It could increase its online sales. And you would support that with some statistics, probably finding out what percentage of sales are happening online now. You go and get those stats to back it up if that was the case. You might think about developing different social media platforms. So maybe at the moment you haven't got social media platforms, you might look to develop them. Only yesterday I was talking to a small business owner who was telling me that they've got Instagram now and they're making sales from Instagram. So that was an example where they had seen an opportunity and they'd maximised that opportunity. The UK government's cutting business rates to small businesses. That could be an opportunity. It might reduce your costs for potentially, and it means that you can make more profit. So that could be one of the aspects where a business can make more money. So as a result of that, it's an opportunity. You could say the local council hosting events in your town centre, for example, or hosting events in the city centre. Those could also be potential opportunities for a business to increase its sales. But then on the downside, you've got to think about what are the threats. So again, and you probably support this with statistics. So one of the threats we all know is the decline in sales of the high street. So if your business is in the high street, that's going to be an issue because it's probably going to see a decline in sales. So again, get some stats to back that up. But then obviously, how can they overcome that threat? The competition. And again, you'd probably be naming the competition. So who are the competition? And you'd be wanting to name them and pointing out what threat they pose. Could be Amazon and other retailers who do online delivery the same day. That's a big issue at the moment. People doing deliveries on the same day because it's a threat to businesses. One of the issues before buying online was you had to wait for it. Now you can obviously get it online. It's a threat to your business. Brexit potentially could be a threat depending on what your business does, but it could be deemed to be a threat. It depends how it's managed, of course. That's one of the issues there. And alongside that, it could also be rising energy costs. Because, of course, we know that could be a threat. Just like you could add in, for example, increase in rent or costs. They're all threats that could impact on your business. Now, of course, once you've done that SWOT analysis, what you're trying to look at is how can you maximise your strengths and how can you minimise your weaknesses and the potential threats. Now, that is exactly what SWOT analysis is all about. It's about that assessment tool. It's a great tool for doing assessments. It's a great tool for analysis and it's a great tool for evaluation. So if you're doing a SWOT analysis, Just think about it in the sense of what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities, and what are the threats to the business. Always try and apply your answer. Always get statistics to back it up, because otherwise it doesn't mean anything. And make sure that when you do that SWOT analysis, you are thinking about the business in question or the context in question. If it's a marketing SWOT, you think about the marketing aspects. If you're doing a general business SWOT, you might think about the general strategy. But always think about the context that you're in. Hopefully that's explained the concept of SWOT analysis. I'm hoping that you now understand what's meant by it and you've got a better understanding of that. And obviously, if you've got any topics you want me to cover, make sure you drop me a message. See the socials down here. Make sure you check out my socials. And remember, until next time, ensure that you keep buzzing.